When I was watching the testimony from the National Press Club, there were witnesses that mentioned seeing objects on radar moving at very high speeds and at right angles,
Right.
which to me means that they must be dematerialized if they have any life forms on board. Otherwise, they would have been smushed by the momentum of the right angle. Does that have any implications in terms of like the soul that might be in a person? Because how can a being dematerialize and then come back?
Well, he's asking a question about objects that are moving like at 100,000 miles an hour or 20,000 miles an hour, make a right turn. Actually, they do not have to be dematerialized. What they do is that they can create, if you will, an energy field around the craft that is kind of like controlled for one gravity. And so even if and it moves with the object. So this is field propulsion, all right? So it can be moving at 100,000 or 200,000 miles an hour and stop or make a right-hand turn. Now, if you were in a jet aircraft, your brains would be coming out of your nose, literally. I mean, it would kill you. But if you have the ability to control what's called gravity control and mass control, and remember, it's a misnomer to say anti-gravity. It's actually, if you will, a mass attenuation, a reduction of mass. So using certain resonant frequencies electromagnetically, you can cause an object to become lighter and then completely massless. Now, at the point that it's massless, it's out of this dimension. But it can be 99% massless, and you will see some aspect of it. Do you see what I'm saying? And this has to do with spin theory in physics and altering the angular momentum of the atoms and subatomic particles. I'm not going to go into the arcana of this because people will be bored. But we understand how this works. But basically the whole craft and everyone on it is, and around this object, is a field that's created. So that's how it can move. And they can still be fully materialized and move. Now, it may also be that they're not materialized and all you're seeing is sort of a energy form or a plasma effect. Such as when Stoney Campbell, who was an Air Force security officer at the Air Force Base in Oklahoma back in the 60s, and there was a cobalt blue sort of a chevron or triangular craft that came over the hot nuclear armed aircraft that we had there. And he and the other security guards could see it, but it wasn't solid. It literally could go straight through the aircraft. But it was enough in this dimension that it set off all the alarms. So all the pilots had to go into the hot area and take off. This is in the disclosure book and in the material. But in that case, they were like, what are we seeing? It was almost like an apparition. Because what they were doing, they were checking out our nuclear weapons, but in a form that wasn't fully solid. And to understand that, you have to begin to understand how you can sort of change mass to where it crosses over into just energy, pure energy, which all mass really is pure energy, but that's all that's left and represented, and then tweak it a little more, and it's invisible. It's still there, and all you may do is pick up an electromagnetic signal, which is why learning how to make contact and how the phenomenon comes, it's really useful to come on one of these expeditions that I run.
Do you know if it's a semi-transitional thing that we're seeing, like maybe it's like semi-transdimensional versus dematerialized? Like, how do we know which really is what's happening when you see just that glow, but it may not be there? We just see the light that's being emitted from the object, but
right.
Maybe it's not physical. Is it dematerialized, or is it like transitioning between dimensions? Do we know?
Yes, we do know. He's asking, how do you know if it's dematerialized? If it's really completely out of this dimension, you're not going to see it. You may remote view it, and there may be an electromagnetic field effect, but visually you're not going to see it. Remember, your eyes only see a very limited spectrum. If you are seeing it, and it may be only transiently, it may only be like a heat wave effect, and you see this thing shimmering, and it comes in and out of this dimension. What it's doing, it's phasing in and out. And it can, at that point, fully materialize in an instant, fully dematerialize in an instant. And this is actually what Corso described. It wasn't in his book, but I mean, I saw it in his papers when I went to his house. had a stack of papers this big. And Colonel Corso had this encounter at White Sands where this craft materialized in broad daylight, and then it would dematerialize. And when it was dematerialized, there was just, it looked like a heat wave, you know, like a mirage in the desert, and then in the shape of the ship. And then it would go click and be fully materialized back. And it did this back and forth, showing him.
All within the same dimension does it do this, or is it transitioning between dimensions as it does it?
And that's what I'm saying. It's going from 3D into other D.
Got it.
Okay. But, you know, it's like a radio waves. If you imagine, you know, the old tuners where you can turn, and sometimes you will hear 2 stations at once on the old AM radio dials, like, you know, where you turn. They can sometimes be in multiple dimensions simultaneously. But that, you know, this is a really advanced discussion of the technologies. But, you know, yes, we do understand how they do it, and classified programs have also experimented with doing the same thing. We have time for probably, what time do you guys have? 5:58. We have 2 minutes before we're supposed to take a break. Is that right?
Yeah, just your name.
Yeah. So let's see. I'll take someone who hasn't asked a question yet. Yes, sir.
I think it was in Contada Transformation that you would relate the story about how you met the ET you named Kindness.
Yeah.
And I believe you were introduced to her by Shari.
Yeah. The night Sherry Adamak passed away is when I was introduced to this ET I call Kindness. Yes.
So my question is, do you continue to have encounters with Kindness and with Shari? And also, is it common to encounter people who have passed away when you have encounters with ETs?
Yes, is it common to have encounters with people who are passed away also when you're having encounters with ETs? I don't know if it's common, but it does happen. And remember, if you go beyond the speed of light, what I call the crossing point of light, you go into energy fields that begin to approximate what the mystics used to call the astral, which is closely approximated to, if you will, the afterlife, that astral aspect of your body. So the night that Sherry Adamak passed away, I awakened in this lucid state, and she was there introducing me to this ET with a perfectly round head. I mean, exactly round, not elongated at all, and completely hairless, and very, very kind. I call her Kindness because she just emitted this kindness. And in almost every expedition under the stars we've had since 1998, she has shown up in what looks like sometimes it's cobalt blue and sometimes it's diamond blue-white ship. And often it'll come in and make a curve and then go back out and dematerialize. But it's that distinctive, it's very distinctive. So yes, we have. And my understanding is that she's a very senior diplomat with an interstellar coalition, very enlightened. And it's sort of like the Bijou, when we had this experience in Joshua Tree, the amount of the development of consciousness of these life forms that have explored the cosmos for thousands, some of them millions of years. It's just stunning. And the intelligence. So yeah, that continues to happen. And it's very unusual that we're out on one of these week expeditions where we don't see that ship.
Do you ever see Shari anymore?
Yeah, I mean, I'll have dreams with her, yeah. And by the way, the lucid dream is an amazing tool because it's, buried within everyone is everything. The entire, it's like this old saying from the Sufi, I think it's Sufi tradition, thinkest thyself a puny form when within thee the universe is folded. In other words, it's a rhetorical question. You're not just some little thing. Through the structure of consciousness and mind, the entire cosmos is folded within every single person, like a quantum conscious hologram. So we're all conscious quantum holograms, and the entirety of the cosmos and creation is folded within every single one of us. So that's why you can have a lucid dream or be in a meditative state and see other worlds and see other places or even other dimensions where people have passed on. And it's quite beautiful. Now, trying to prove that scientifically, but it's a global experience. I mean, there's so many people who've had lucid dreams of something that's happened the next day. I mean, so there's empirical evidence, but you can't prove it. But ultimately, I think in the future we will have the ability technologically to prove these things. And until then, we can use what God gave us, our own consciousness and thought and mind, and create a new world. Well, with that, I think it's a great place to end. It's a little after 6. I want to thank all of you for coming. We'll have time to hang here for a little while. And I just want to say in closing, really the key thing to disclosure and to contact is people stepping into their own power and not waiting for other people to do it. Because if you wait for others to do it, it will never happen. This is something that has to be a grassroots, mass consciousness event. And the next phase of disclosure is going to be exactly that. And the more that people understand that and actually do it, instead of just thinking about it, the more rapidly we're going to get to this next level of our civilization, the future of which is beautiful if we get it right. Because it's a future of free energy, abundance and unbelievable prosperity on this planet, peace, universal peace, and interstellar travel. That is what, we're right at the point of being able to create that reality. And that is the future for Earth and humanity if we choose to make it that. But it isn't going to happen by people sitting doing nothing. It's going to happen because you actually, kind of walk that talk and make it happen. And so empowerment of yourself and learning to do this, and also helping us identify the people who can be this next wave of disclosure witnesses. But just by sharing the disclosure book and the videos of what we've already put together with people, people will come up to you and say, oh, well, I know someone who was in the Navy, who was on a ship that had this, or someone who's worked for Lockheed Martin at the Cube in Edwards. We need to get a whole new wave of people to come forward that will just end forever the question of the secrecy. But that's only the beginning of the work, because the real work is then after that, where we have to find a way of creating a world on this planet that is worthy of becoming part of an interstellar family of planets, which means a peaceful civilization.